Hello students, in continuity of chapter number 15, biodiversity and conservation. Now we are going to discuss about biodiversity conservation. It means that why should we conserve our biodiversity and how we can conserve our biodiversity. First of all, let's discuss about biodiversity conservation. As we know, so many reasons are there for biodiversity conservation. Some are known to us, some are unknown to us also. But what is important here? Which thing is important here? Known or unknown, but both are equally important for us because it's question for our survival. For our study convenience, this can be grouped into three categories. Now these three categories are narrowly utilization, broadly utilization and ethical. First category, narrowly utilization. In this category, it's a narrowly utilitarian arguments for conserving biodiversity are obvious. Humans derive countless direct economical benefits from nature, its natural foods. As we know, we consume so many cereals, pulses, fruits as a food. Firewood is also a requirement, fibers. Then if you talk about construction material, industrial products, so many type of industrial products are there useful to mankind. That is tannins, lubricants, dyes, resins, perfumes and some other. In this product as well as medicinal importance also. So many medicinal products are there. More than 25% of the drugs currently sold in the market, if you talk worldwide, are derived from plants, and 25,000 peoples around the world species of plant contribute to the traditional medicine used by native people around the world. Nobody knows how many more medicinally useful plants there are in tropical rainforest waiting to be exposed. With increasing resources, bioprospecting is exploring molecule, genetic and species level diversity for products of economic importance. Nations endowed with rich biodiversity can expect to reap enormous benefits. So, narrowly utilitarian arguments for biodiversity conservation are there. It's one of the group of this category of why should we conserve our biodiversity, and that is narrowly utilitarian type of argument. Second, broadly utilitarian. In this argument, now what does it say? It says that biodiversity plays a major role in many ecosystem services that nature provides. If we talk about this in detail, the fast dwelling Amazon forest, as we know, Amazon forests, they are known as lungs on this earth because they provide so much amount of oxygen. That's why Amazon forest is estimated to produce through photosynthesis 20% of the total oxygen in this earth atmosphere. So it's a so big amount. Now, if we put this economical value, service by nature, can we evaluation it's a economic service to nature? We can get same idea by finding how much our neighborhood hospitals spend oxygen cylinder. As we know, some patients in hospital they require oxygen cylinder, and naturally from where we can get our oxygen, actually from our atmosphere, and these forests are responsible for same. Pollination, so without which plant cannot give fruits or seeds, we know. Pollination is must for plants for its product like fruit and seed is another service ecosystem provide through pollinator layers. They may be bees, some other birds, bats and some other living organism also. So this way this type of benefits we are getting from our ecosystem. It's actually no economical we actually evaluation of this, but its value is very important for us. Okay, so many products we are getting from this way, from our ecosystem, from our atmosphere. If we talk about third argument, that is ethical. Ethical argument for conserving biodiversity is related to what we owe to millions of plants, animals, and microbe species with whom we share this planet. As we know, so many living organisms they are surviving on this earth, except human being. So many living organisms are there. Products from plants and animal very useful to us, mankind. It's a one type of ecosystem service. They are providing us in free actually. So, when we need this, realize that every species has an important its value, even it may not be directly or indirectly valuable for us. They are economically valuable also, and they are useful for our well-being. Okay, so biological legacy is God ordered to future generations also. So this way, three arguments we can discuss, that is narrow, broadly, okay, utilitarian type of argument as well as ethical argument. So now we can understand by this why should we conserve our biodiversity. Over and above this also some more points are there. For that particular purpose also we should conserve our biodiversity, because many ways it is very useful to mankind and other living organism also. As we know, we are part of ecosystem. All living organisms they are part of food chain or food web. They depend on each other for their food requirement, and this way biological cycle run in our nature, and it is important for survival of all living organisms. Now, how do we conserve our biodiversity? As we know, man-made activities actually responsible for this type of destroy of biodiversity on this earth, on this planet. Civilization and our requirement is actually responsible for degradation, destroy of biodiversity on this earth. When we conserve and protect the whole ecosystem, its biodiversity at all level is protected. We save the entire forest to save the tiger, some other animals also. This approach is called in situ. It means on-site conservation. There are two types, in situ and ex situ. In situ means on-site conservation, and ex situ it means that off-site conservation of biodiversity. So there are two types, in situ, on-site, and ex situ, that is outside conservation. When there are situations where animal or plants is endangered or threatened, organisms they are actually very high risk for their extinction in the wild in the near future. So many species of plants and animals are of this type. Okay, so gradually they are destroying from this earth, from our nature, and it is very risky. It needs to urgent measures to save it from extinction. Okay, so same purpose, so ex situ and in situ conservation of biodiversity. First, let's study in situ conservation. It means on-site conservation in detail. If we conflict between development and conservation, many nations find it's that this economically is not to conserve all other biological wealth, because we also depend on products of nature for economical purpose. Number of species are waiting to save for extinction. Excess conservation resources available. On a global basis, this problem has been addressed by so many nations, their conservatives, biologists. Okay, nowadays it's a actually very risky level. They identify for maximum protection certain biodiversity hotspot. They are actually particular type of regions with very high level of species richness and high degree of endemism. It means that species confined to that region and not found anywhere. Initially, 25 biodiversity hotspots were identified, but 9 more have been added to the list, bringing that the total number of hotspots, if we talk on this soil, that is 34. These hotspots are also regions of accelerated habitat loss. 3 of these major hotspots, Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, Indo-Burma and Himalayan cover our country's exceptionally high biodiversity regions. Although all the biodiversity hotspots put together cover less than 2% of Earth's land area, the number of species they collectively harbor is extremely high, and strict protection of these hotspots could reduce the ongoing mass extinction by almost 30%. If we talk about our country, in India, ecologically unique and biodiversity rich regions are legally protected as biosphere reserves. Some are national parks and some are sanctuaries. India, now 14 biosphere reserves are there, 90 national parks and 448 wildlife sanctuary. India has also a history of religious and cultural traditions that emphasize protection of nature. In many cultures, tracts of forest they were set aside, and all the trees and wildlife within were they are venerated and given total protection. So this way it is found in some particular region, so Kasi and Jaintia hills in Meghalaya, Aravalli hills of Rajasthan, Western Ghat regions of Karnataka and Maharashtra, and some other region also. India as well as outside India also, if we talk worldwide, so this type of regions are there. Secondary, it is ex situ or off-site conservation. If we talk about this particular approach, threatened animals and plants, they are taken out from their natural habitat and placed in this type of special reservation area. They are setting where they can be protected and given special care. So it's a one type of method of conservation of biodiversity conservation. In inside it is on-site conservation as we know, and now ex situ matlab off-site conservation of same. Zoological parks, botanical gardens, wildlife safari parks, they serve this purpose. Okay, you also have visited this type of places also. There are many animals that have become extinct in the wild but continue to be maintained in zoological parks. It is possible. Same way, if we talk about plants also, this type of plants which are near to extincted or red list, red zone, they also can be conserved this way. That is a type of ex situ conservation. Now, if we talk about gametes of some threatened species can be preserved in viable and fertile condition for long period using cryopreservation technique, where low temperature technique is provided. Eggs can be fertilized in vitro in means laboratory condition, and plants can be propagated using tissue culture methods. So nowadays so many techniques are available for the same. So this way we can conserve our biodiversity at ex situ or off-site level. Seeds of different genetic strains of commercially important plants can be kept for long period in seed bank also. So nowadays facility, if you know about it, seed banks are available for same purpose, where this type of seeds of economically or commercially valuable plant species can be kept for long period of time, and whenever requirement is there, it can be germinate. If we compare both type, it means in situ and ex situ. Now we know about this. In situ method involve protection endangered species in their natural habitat. Well, ex situ conservation, it is placing of threatened animals and plants in special care unit their protection purpose. In situ conservation, it helps in recovering populations in the surrounding where they have developed their distinct feature. How ex situ helps? It helps in recovering population or preventing their extinction under stimulated condition that closely resemble their natural habitat. That is different between in situ and ex situ. In situ conservation, some examples of this area: national park, biosphere reserve, wildlife sanctuary, and some other places where this type of protection of endangered species in their natural habitat. In ex situ type of conservation, this particular area, actually they are botanical gardens, zoological parks for plants and animals. So now we can understand how do we conserve our biodiversity at in situ or ex situ level, and what is the difference between these two. Biodiversity knows no political boundaries, and its conservation is therefore a collective responsibility of all nations. We all are responsible to conserve our biodiversity because it is for our survival. The historical convention of biological diversity is actually the Earth Summit held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, called upon all nations to take appropriate measures for conservation of biodiversity and sustainable utilization of its benefits. In a follow-up, the World Summit on Sustainable Development held in 2002 in Johannesburg, South Africa, 190 countries pledged their commitment to achieve by 2010 a significant reduction in the current rate of biodiversity loss at global, regional, and local levels. So, by knowing this, what is actually biodiversity, its importance, why should we conserve our biodiversity, and how do we conserve our biodiversity, it is important for each and every human being, because after all, okay, it is important for our survival.